Good evening, everyone. We're here in Community Advisors RSR, and I'm the host Raimundo Reyes for Community Advisors RSR, co-host Edward Rodriguez from LULAC District Council ATN. Today, we're going to be talking about something very interesting that Edward has been working on for a couple months. He has been preparing, and he said we're talking about doing a Zoom meeting, a show here in Community Advice RSR to talk about this topic. And he said, hey, you know what? There's something big news, breaking news. And I'm going to share this news with y'all. So, Eduardo.
All right. Well, good day, good night, whatever you want to call it. But I'm Eduardo Rodriguez. I'm a deputy district director, one of the deputy district directors for District 18 here in Houston. And we have a lot of things that are going on, as you know, throughout the country. But now that the election itself is over, we need to get back to work. We need to get back to doing things that we normally do on a local level. And this is one of those deals. For a long time, since about April the 21st of this year, we have been working on a couple of shootings between the police officer and the citizens, where the officers have been literally killing citizens. A lot of those people that were killed, we consider them to be unarmed. Part of my responsibilities with LULAC is to also be a part of coalitions throughout this area, throughout the Gulf Coast area. And one of those is the Greater Houston Coalition for Justice. In that organization, I am the immigration head and also the uh, co-chair for the civil rights. So I deal with a lot of different things. One of the things that I've been doing here lately is I've been reviewing some documents that were issued by a 45-member commission on independent police review for the city of Houston. They want to figure out how to do a better job on getting transparency, on how we can get an opportunity to work with the police department and create a window or a door, that transparency that people want, so that the families, can get answers quickly, and that the community doesn't go out and cause problems as far as marches and stuff like that that may get out of hand, as it did in other areas of the nation when, for instance, Houstonian Floyd got shot up north. So these are things that we're trying to avoid down here, but we can't do that without being able to get the information we need from the police. So this page that came out, or this report that came out from the city of Houston, was a very beautiful piece of work. It was very extensive, very detailed. Um, it has a lot of great leadership that is part of the Houston community, that was part of that commission, so they could put things together. I don't have that. I am by myself, and I take all their stuff and I review it, and then I use my years of experience to try to figure out what is or what is not happening, and what can and what and maybe it will not work. I was lucky that they did such a great job on their part that I was able to take that and create something that I think is going to be a good um, bridge between the citizens, the police, and the city itself. We're going to get ready to represent or present that to the city next Tuesday. We'll be having a press conference, uh, getting ready to do that. So I can't, and I won't go in too much detail because they still need to kind of review that. But I will tell you this: the two things that we want to do is we want to be able to have quick access to any police body video that they have, and we want to be able to find out answers as quickly as possible to any incidents that involve serious deadly force or death. And I think we've been able to accomplish that. There's a lot of things that lead to that. What kind of training the officer got, what was the officer doing? Is he mentally, tired? Did he make a bad decision? If he did, how and what led to that? How do we recruit good officers? How do we spot bad officers? Once a shooting occurs, do we offer them psychological helping? There's a lot of things that go into it. So what I did was I took the information and I broke it down into two different parts. The first part is exactly what we're talking about just now: the training, the education, the recruitment, the marketing, giving what they call health and mental wellness of the officers and checking on them to see if they're okay and how do we present that program to them so that they don't feel like, oh man, if I go to the psychologist, they're you guys are gonna think I'm crazy. I won't get promoted. That's what the officers think. So we need to figure out a way to get them to understand we're doing this for your own good, because they get PTSD just like anybody else in the military or anybody who grows up in the hood. Trust me, we get PTSD too. So these are issues that we have to deal with. The second part of that is how do we create the transparency when a shooting occurs? How do we get the people the information that they need immediately so that they don't go out there and start trying to cause problems in the neighborhood? It's not that we don't want them to march. We do. We want them to express their grief. We want them to express, how they feel, and we want them to exercise their right to complain and grieve openly. But at the same time, we also want them to understand what happened as soon as possible because they have a right to it. They deserve it. The sooner you know what happened, the sooner you can start healing. And that's something that right now we're just not getting a chance to do. So on the second part, what I've tried to do is I've tried to propose a investigative unit to based on the National Transportation Safety Board investigative team. When something happens, that is when the team will get activated. The team is made up of minimum of 3 investigators or as many investigators as the independent review board membership wants to have. Now, once they start, they come in, they are getting paid to do this investigation by the city. They will work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until they have finished. So if they get called at 3 o'clock in the morning, they start at 3 o'clock in the morning and they stay on it until they have gotten every single fact, every video, everything that they can get their hands on. And then they put all of it together and create 2 reports. The first one is a summary report, and the second is a final report. The summary report goes directly to the membership so that they can go ahead and look at it. If anything else is needed or they feel like something else is missed or whatever, then they make that determination and the investigators will go back and pick up whatever they need to go ahead and take care of. Once that's done and they feel comfortable with it, then the final report is issued and the final report is then released on the day of a press conference. It does not get released to anybody until that day. Once they have an opportunity to do this and they see that, as soon as they turn the camera on, right then and there, that's when everybody gets a copy. The mayor, the DA, the DOJ, uh, people like LULAC, NAACP, whoever wants it, and it's also available online to anybody who wants a copy. So we have 100% transparency. Now, it is not the team's job to decide who was right and who was wrong. That is not their job. Their job is strictly to collect the facts and put together a report based on the facts and make recommendations as to what they believe happened. That's why we sent a copy to the chief, the mayor, the DA, and all these other people. It's their job to determine, you know what, right here, this section, that was against the law. We're going to go ahead and take them to court. That's their job. It's not the investigator's job to do that. So hopefully that'll be something that we'll be able to do and move along really, really quick with.
Definitely. Thank you, Eduardo Edward, for sharing that information. And you and I know that you're a person who knows a lot of information, who has a background, and other community members, community leaders, they know of your background, your experience, and everything that you have done and continue to do for the community. But can you explain a little bit to the public so they know that that you used to work as a police officer, and so you know what you're talking about and you know what you're working on.
One of the things that I did was when I first started out, I started out as a cop. I started out as a jailer here in Harris County, and then worked my way all the way up to being a deportation officer in the federal government with the U.S. Immigration. But being a deportation officer in immigration is not just that. It's not just immigration. It has to do with investigations. We investigate people all over the world. We go after cartel members. We go after human trafficking. We go after child pornography, uh, all kinds of things that we're involved in. You'd be surprised the things that we're involved in. So our experience on doing investigations is very, very extensive. That's number one. Number two, another thing that I do or did, I was uh, was told to create a SWAT team from scratch. The national SWAT team, the first national SWAT team for Immigration and Naturalization Service. That's a nationwide SWAT team. I had nothing to start that with. I had to create the entire policy, the budget. I had to do the recruitment. I had to do the training. I had to get everybody going. So all these guys are being trained how to walk into buildings and how to take down people and snipers and all that. I taught them all. And so when I look at these situations like the police shootings and whatever that we have here locally, I know what I'm looking for because when I trained my people, we would do the training, and then immediately after the training, we did what they call a debrief. In other words, we'd sit down and we'd talk about what just happened and figure out why it happened that way. When we had to do some, actual situations, again, afterwards we would sit down and we'd go over it to see what we did wrong or what we did right so that we can do it better again or do it the same next time. So these things are what I look for, and I don't see that happening with the police department when these shootings occur. I know they're doing internal investigations. I know that the Rangers are coming along doing their side, and I know the FBI sometimes steps in and do that. But there's no follow up. There's no what if, what do we do now? In other words, since April 21st, we've had 20 shootings with HPD officers involved in these shootings. 20. We've had more than that in the entire county with the constables and the smaller city PDs and things like that. But just Houston Police Department has already had 20 since April 21 of this year. That's incredibly high. So nobody has stopped this runaway train. Nobody has had a debrief to figure out what went right and what went wrong and how can we fix it. So that's one of the things that I hope to bring to it. And that my experience, I know, is going to help in that situation. That's why I know that this setup that I'm going to offer will hopefully have the support that everybody um, is hoping to have. And I think it solves and answers all the questions that everybody wants so that we can get these things done quickly. The second thing that was really important to everybody was how do we get this implemented as quickly as possible without having to go to the citizenship? Because sometimes when you do these kinds of things, you have to get the citizens to give you a permission. In other words, we're getting ready to start basically a new agency inside the city. We need to have the voters vote on that. Well, yes and no. In this particular case, we don't have to because the city has the right under the mayor's office to go ahead and request special investigators if he so desires. It's the same thing as maybe a district attorney or the U.S. attorney requesting a special, uh, uh, I guess, attorney, right, to do an investigation on a congressman or a politician or whatever. So they can hire anybody they want to. They don't need any special rules or they don't need anything special in order to get that done. They already have that authority. A lot of times, what happens is our citizens, um, when they question the politicians, they get some weird answers. Well, the reason they do that is because a lot of the politicians they don't even know what their jobs are. They don't even know what they can do under their jobs and what their titles allow them to do. Some do and some don't, but majority of them don't, and therefore they end up adding to the problem and not being part of the solution. Hopefully, we'll be able to resolve that by doing this in this fashion. If it works, we might expand it to countywide and maybe statewide. But I think for right now, a lot of changes have to be done, but this is a good first step.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And once again, to remind to our public, to our viewership, to those who have, follow us and watched us since the beginning, we created Community Advisor RSR. Thank you so much for watching us. And Eduardo is a person that has a lot of experience and knowledge, and he's working on something that is very a topic that is discussed, that is being talked about, discussing among people, which is police reform, and it's an important. He's gonna do his best. I know he's gonna do what he does best. I have worked with him in the political field, so I know that he knows a lot of information, and he's gonna do the best that he can to help the community and help resolve that problem. And he's gonna be presenting more information as we go on or in the future. And as you know, as things happen, he's gonna present information here on Community Advisor RSR. And Eduardo, any comments as to things that you have seen about the police or and the community police and community relations that you think they're are they good or bad currently, or is that something that the group of people that are being informed that you're going to be needing? Is there and have they discussed that or talked about the community relations among the police and the people?
Yeah, actually, I have, and there's a lot of discussion going on with stuff like that right now because of what's happening right now. The city of Houston, the police officers themselves have a very bad relationship and very bad trust issue with the citizens of Houston, and the reason is because of a lot of things. It's not just these shootings. They don't respond and they don't clear enough burglaries. There's a lot of assaults that they don't handle. There's a lot of things that they just, they'll start the deal and make the arrest, and then they go ahead and put the guy into the system. System will go ahead and issue the guy a bond and then let him go out. And the cops, well, they say, well, see, now he went out and killed somebody, or he went out and did this and did that, so it's not our fault, it's the court's fault. Well, yes and no, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But then on the other side of the coin, we have some very good officers and some very good departments. A lot of the constables in the county have a great relationship with a lot of the citizens. As a matter of fact, many of the constables in Harris County have what they call contract deputies that actually do contract patrol in a lot of the neighborhoods throughout the county. It's a great little program. It's been around for a long time, and the citizens really like that. Even the areas that Houston police officers are supposed to be patrolling are being patrolled by constables, and you get better response time from the constable than you do from the city. It's crazy, So sheriff, same thing. You have a lot of area where the sheriffs go out, and I remember when I was working for the sheriff department, um, I've literally had people tell me, "Hey, deputy, dude, why don't you take me in, man? Take me in. I don't want to go with HPD, please, man. I don't want to go. Don't let me go with those guys, man," because they were that scared of the Houston police officers. So it's something that's been around for a while. This is not something that happened overnight, and it's something that we're going to have to address. And there's a lot of things that contribute to that, but probably the biggest, in my opinion, is that a lot of the officers don't even live in the city and don't even live in the county. They don't even live in our county. They live in other counties, Willis County, Wallace County, what do you call it, Fort Bend, and other ones. So they don't even live here. They live in other counties, and yet they're working here and getting paid here. To me, one of the things that the commission wanted to do, and they offered this as a recommendation, was they felt that needed to be, something that needed to be addressed. And the way that they recommended it was that they wanted to go ahead and give a financial incentive to the officers to move back into the city. Um, as a former boss with a agency such as INS or ICE, um, we don't ask employees what they want. We tell them what we want. You want to work for Houston? You live in Houston. It's that simple. You don't want to live in Houston city limits? You don't want to work for Houston. It's that simple. So what does that mean? Well, on the average, most of the Houston police officers are making about $90,000 a year base pay. So you're basically telling the guy, if you want your $90,000, you need to move into Houston. Well, yeah, boss, but I bought a house. I just finished buying the house over in Montgomery County. I guess you need to go and put in an application at Montgomery County because you're not going to be working. That's how that works. And when you start doing that, that's important because, see, when the officer lives where he's working, he gets to know the people and the people get to know him. And now at 2 o'clock in the morning, because I've done that, brother, let me tell you, I worked in places where I was the only guy around for like 20, 25 miles, and I was a deputy, and everybody knew me. They knew where I lived. And at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, to be like, oh man, okay, yeah, yeah, what's going on? Yeah. Hey, deputy, man, my brother, he just rolled his car. And, hey, deputy, my sister's getting beat up by her boyfriend. Hey, deputy, and you had to go take care of it. That was your job. So when you work and you live in the same place, um, you have a better understanding of the people, and you start treating people better because they have a name, they got a face, you know who they are. They're not strangers anymore. They're not just people on the street. So you tend to try to help them because you know who they are. They're good people. It just every now and then, most of us we get stupid. That happens. But that's something that we're going to have to address as well.
Definitely, that's definitely good. And in addition to all of that you have mentioned, once they live in the community, they get to understand the community, like you mentioned, way better. And also, they don't act as that outside person that comes in and it's here. I'm gonna fix everything. I want everything my way only, and that's the way. Wait a minute. It's like in our communities, and you come to a Hispanic and Latino community, and you see a lot of people in a house, and you're gonna say, "Oh, wait a minute, they're just having a party." For example, right now in COVID-19, that's not good. That might go against the mandates or city ordinance, and then you realize, wait, that's not true. It's like you realize if you live in the Hispanic Latino community, you realize, wait, all those people probably live in that house because it's hard to pay rent because all of them work 24/7 and they don't work in high paying jobs. Not a lot of people enjoy that, working from home or working in jobs that pay more than the minimum wage. So you get to learn more about the community where you live, and that's something positive. You're on mute, Edward.
Not only is it positive, one of the things that it's crucial to what we've got going on. When you have some people living in the same neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's really good for the community in general. But it's just so much that goes on because the attitude of the officers for Houston Police Department is a little bit different than the attitude of the sheriff or the constable. It's not a bad attitude. It's just it sometimes it could be misplaced or misdirected, and the people don't know how to deal with that. Um, but on top of that, though, there's some really good stuff. I mean, the report that the commission did, they had some great suggestions. I mean, really smart suggestions. They wanted to have a series of training for citizens and the police officers so that they could both understand each other. Well, it's not going to be that easy to do, but there are ways around that, and that's something that they can discuss and figure out. I don't want to get involved in that part of it because um, that really is everybody's a little bit different. The Asian community is different than the Hispanic community. The Black community is different than the Hispanic community and the Asian community, and so on and so on. So it's a really is a lot of work. If it was general, are there some general things? Yes. Like what? I'll give you a great example. The Houston Police Department, LULAC, heck, even you and me, Ramon, we can do this too. We can go out and make a PSA as to what you do when you see the flashing lights behind you. Turn all your lights on the inside of the car. Put your hands, both hands, on top of the steering wheel, and you stay there until the officer comes up to you. When he comes up to you, he'll tell you when he taps on the window, roll your window down. That way he can watch your hand go down and open the window. Then you come back up and put your hand here. And he's going to talk to you and tell you, you know why I stopped you and all that stuff. But the point is, he just wants to be safe. So show him you want him to feel safe because I want to be safe.
Oh, yes.
We do these things, but the other side of that coin, that's what we can do to help the citizens. Don't argue with the officer. The time to argue is in the court. Don't argue with the officer. If he's messed up, he's doing things wrong, just memorize it, videotape it, whatever you want to do, but don't argue with the officer.
Uh,
Go home.
Edward, sorry to interrupt. Uh, can you tell our public, their viewership, and those who are going to be watching this video later on, that it's legal to, I know it's legal to record an officer, but can you tell them, and you as a former police officer,
As far as the video,
yeah, like recording whenever you're stopped
sure,
and
sure. Yeah, well, the law in the state of Texas is really simple. Whenever you have something that records, be it audio or video, all you need is one person's permission to do that. Who? Me. I only need my permission to do that. So if an officer comes and, hey man, you need to turn that video off. No, I don't. The law doesn't say that. The law says I can record anything I want to. Why? Because that's how it is. When they have their camera on, and they're supposed to be on too. What are they recording? Everything. They don't get a chance to turn it off, and if they do turn it off, we need to find out who those guys are doing that, and we need to go ahead and discipline them as well. But the officer also needs to know that there's some things that we expect from him. When he pulls me over, I expect him to treat me with respect. Okay, wait a minute, wait a minute. Why should he give me respect? I didn't earn it. No, sir, it's not that. See, what the officers have got to do is this. When you wear a uniform and you have a badge to be a peace officer in the state of Texas, you are no longer white, brown, black, Asian, or anything. You are just a blue person wearing a uniform. That's it. You're not supposed to be offended. You're not supposed to deal with racial profiling. You're not supposed to deal with anything. So everybody, every officer should come to me exactly the same way. How you doing, sir? My name is Officer So and So of the Houston Police Department or the Sheriff's Department or whatever. The reason I stopped you, sir, is because of this, this, this. Oh, okay. Well, do you have your license, proof of insurance? Yeah. And he gives it to him, and he looks at it and all that stuff. And he goes back and he runs it, comes back and says, well, sir, I just ran you and I'm going to ask you to have to come out of the vehicle because there seems to be an issue. Oh, what's wrong, officer? Well, it appears that there may be a warrant out for your arrest. Right. At that stage, the people have got to don't argue. Okay, well, let's go down. Even if you know it's yours, bro, don't argue with the guy. He's got a gun. He's got buddies that are getting ready to show up with guns. Because when he got on the radio and he found out that there was a warrant for you, he made sure that he asked for backup. So don't argue with the guy. There's about to be 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 guys showing up. Don't argue with him. Just turn around, get handcuffed, go to court in the morning, get bonded out, and deal with it in court. Don't mess with the officer because he's not there to say no. Well, I'll take care of it tomorrow. No, he can't. Once he knows, he can't say no. He can't stop the arrest. He's got to go ahead and make the arrest. So I'm sorry, that's the best way to do it. Just don't argue with it. Believe me, it's so much better. Even though you're going to lose your job in the morning, even though you're going to be humiliated, even though you're going to feel like crap because you're getting arrested, and you may have your wife and your kids in the car, and you're feeling like lousy, don't argue with the officer. Just go with him and take care of it in court. So these are things that as an officer, you want to be able to know that they're going to be working with me and not working against me because I don't want to shoot anybody. Most cops are like that. Most cops don't want to do anything bad. But it's just like anything else. If you push me, I don't have a choice. Officers do not have a choice to stop. The only thing they have an option to do is to give you a verbal warning on your ticket. That's it. After that, if they have to arrest you, they have to arrest you. They are the state of Texas. So when you disrespect an officer, you're actually disrespecting every citizen in the state of Texas because we asked him to be there and do what he's doing. So when you slap him or you hit him, you're hitting all of us. And that's why you get the felony charge because you're disrespecting all of us, including yourself. And that's a no-no.
quite interesting, definitely. To fight in the courts, and so like Eduardo mentioned, me as a person, as a person, not as I have never been a cop, but just a civilian, like Eduardo said, as a person, as a citizen. Uh, you think the encounter is bad? Or you think it's going down south, being bad? Record it. Maybe you can put your phone up in here in your pocket, and you have like a shirt that has a pocket. Put it there, and put it record the whole deal, or put it somewhere in your car or with your hand. All depends how you want to do it. You're able to record it, and that's evidence that you can use probably if you get a lawyer, and that lawyer's gonna see it, and if you're right, you're gonna win the case. And that officer, I don't know what happens to the officer. Maybe he gets disciplined, maybe he gets fired, but we know there's good people and we know that there's bad people. And I assume in the police, there's good officers and there's bad officers. So that
Look,
being
look,
said,
I'm gonna tell you how I used to do it. You know, when I was still a cop, you know, when we started having videos on the cell phones. It was late in the game, but it's still we had cell phone videos and stuff available. So when I was already at the federal level when that happened. And when I used to make arrests, there were people that that had cell phones, and they would take them out and say, "I'm going to record you while you're making the arrest." Let me tell you what I did, sir. You have a right to go ahead and record me if you don't, if you feel like you need to do that. Feel free to do that. Do you have anybody in the area? No. Okay. Would do you mind if I call somebody that's watching? And there's always people that are standing around watching you arrest somebody. It just everybody likes that rubbernecking deal is always a big deal, right? So I would ask somebody, excuse me, could you come over here, please? Sir, do you mind if she takes your phone? She can keep recording for you. See, I didn't have a problem because I knew I was going to do everything right. So if he wants to record me, I'm happy. Let's do it. I mean, if you're going to record, let's get it done right. Federal officers don't carry cameras. We don't have to carry cameras. So if he wants to carry a camera, then go ahead. Record me. I don't care. I'm not going to do anything right because I know my job inside and out. So you can go ahead and have everybody here if you want. When we get to court, it's just going to show that I did my job correctly. And I understand that though, being the kind of officer that I was, I understood that to me, it was a lot of fun being an officer because I know that I had rules that I had to follow. Criminals don't have those rules. I did. But to be able to use the rules that I have and still be able to arrest and get a conviction on somebody, that to me was very fulfilling. It was very, made me feel really good as far as the job goes because by doing it inside that little bitty guideline of rules, I was protecting his rights and the rights of everybody else. I was doing what I was asked to do, and I could still get the job done. So you don't have to shoot people, man. I mean, sometimes you get into a firefight or whatever, but for the most part, you don't even have to shoot anybody. I worked all the time, 25 years in law enforcement. I drew my gun out probably about I don't know, 30 or 40, maybe 50 times. Never shot anybody. Never. Never pulled the trigger on. No. And I had some big fights. I took guns away from people. They had shotguns on me. They had machetes. They had knives. They had baseball bats. They had cars. They had all kind. I got dragged by a pickup truck uh, for quite a long ways. I reached in. The guy was driving. He was drunk. I reached in to try to get the key to turn off the car, and he put it in gear and took off. And I was hanging on the door, and we were going all the way. I could have shot that kid. Didn't do it. Just waited till he stopped, and then we got him out and arrested him. So yeah, there's a lot of times, but you have to have the sense of I'm here to protect him too. He has a right to live too. Don't get mad. Just do your job, and everybody can walk away from this. That's how I was playing. So
definitely. So, what is this board meeting? Is the meetings where you're gonna be you as a leader, you as the person in charge, as Edward, are the meetings public or is it private or how is it? How can people access the information? Not the ball itself. Let's say a police shooting happens and they want to get that information. You just explained that there's a process how things are going to be done, but meaning that people want to talk to you or talk to someone of those people that are in that board. How can they communicate with you all?
well, if the the proposal is accepted by the city and everybody else. A citizen who wants to have information, all they have to do is get a hold to one of the board members, and the board members can go ahead and get any kind of information that they so desire, because we want to know what's going on. Sometimes there's people out there that know something that we don't even know about, and they're just scared. They don't want to talk to anybody. So they may call one of the board members and say, hey, I know this, I know that. So yeah, we want them to be able to communicate. A lot of times we have to deal with the family. And the family wants to know, hey, can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? How come they're moving too slow? I have two cases that I'm working right now where people were killed by somebody. We don't know exactly who, but the Houston police officer detectives are taking forever. They don't want to move. They're like, well, if we find the guy, well, you don't even know who it is. You don't even have a suspect. Well, maybe down the road we'll find a suspect. So maybe somebody will turn themselves in. Really? That's how we and then they wonder how come we are not supportive of them. They're not supportive of us. So with the if the citizen wants to have information, he can sit down and talk to anybody within the team. The supervisor, investigator, supervisor will have a chance to say certain things. But for the most part, the board members are going to be in charge of giving out the information. And that's how it should be, because they're actually the ones that are going to oversee the whole thing. The officer's job or the investigator's job is just to collect all the information and try to make sure that we can get that to the right people. But that's why we're trying to do it this way, so that anybody who is watching can go ahead and pull up any information that's available to them. And there will be a website and there'll be all these great things so they can go ahead and do it. We want them to know. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that think that there's a big conspiracy against everybody. Uh, and there might be, I don't know. But I can tell you that probably not, you know. But hey, they need the right to. They have a right to that information. So we want to make sure that they get that information, because it keeps them from doing something that they shouldn't do, like burning buildings, destroying businesses, things like that. We don't need that either. That doesn't help one bit whatsoever.
Quite interesting. Yes, definitely. The flow of information and how it's gonna, if it's approved, like you mentioned, gonna be interesting, and it's something that a lot of people are looking forward to. And I know that you have a lot of experience and knowledge, so I know everything's gonna be done correctly. It's gonna help the community. Thank you for everything that you're doing, Edward. And like I mentioned before, Eduardo is gonna be Edward is gonna be presenting information here in Community Rights RSR as things go on, and that way y'all can stay informed. Everybody who's watching us, and perhaps knowing that Edward is gonna be in charge, there's gonna be maybe new things are gonna come up, new strategies, how to tackle the problem, how to address the problem, and that way you can learn from whatever area you're watching us. If you're watching us from another county, uh, watching us from another state, know that he's working for the better of the community and also for the better of this nation. Uh, that being said, any final comments, Eduardo, or anything?
Yeah, I do have a final comment, and my final comment is this: um, don't give up on us. Don't give up on the leadership in the community. Sometimes it looks like we're doing things slow, and it is. We are doing things slow. The reason we do that is because we want to make sure we get you the right information. We move fast. Sometimes we miss things, and the person that deserves to be disciplined doesn't get that. And in order to be able to protect your rights and do good for you guys, we have to go a little bit slow. The politicians, they mean well, they do, but it's a weird business. Politics is a very weird animal, and even though they mean well and they want to help, and they feel they hurt, um, but it for some reason they're isolated from us, because there's a bubble in politics. There's a big bubble between us and them, and I don't know why it happens, but it does. We need to figure out a way to get past that bubble, but it does exist. The higher you get up on in the political deal, the worse the bubble gets. But for the people themselves, don't give up on us. Be safe. Don't fight the officer in the street. Fight it in court. I would be more than happy to be there with you or get somebody from Little Act to be there with you. We have no problem showing up and trying to do that because we want justice for you. Even if you did wrong, you still need to be treated properly. So, and that's what we're here for.
Thank you for sharing that information, Edward. And for me, if you get an encounter, so be it with a police officer that it's not treating you correctly, or with any government official or any government office, or in particular anything that's not they're not treating you correctly, you feel discriminated or anything, you can record your phone, use your phone. Your phone is very useful. You'll be surprised what you can do with your phone, and it's not illegal to if you feel threatened to record someone, for evidence. And it's one of the things that we always talk in politics. For example, whenever we're working in politics, personally, whenever I'm working in politics, uh, people get arguments, there's discussions, and the best thing to avoid it for me, it's just avoid arguments. Like Eduardo said, in this case, for police, dealing with police, just avoid arguing with them, just avoid the conflict and deal with it. And whenever you go in front of the judge, get a good lawyer. And once you got that evidence, that recording, he's gonna have his evidence. And like Eduardo said, if he turned off his camera whenever things happen, well, you have it in your phone. Well, I guess there's only one truth and one truth only, and if they're trying to do something wrong, they're gonna get caught. So thank you so much for watching us this evening night of Monday, 16, 2020. Uh, we look forward you speaking to you on seeing you on Wednesday. It's gonna be in Spanish, police reform in Spanish for that way. Present this information to our Spanish-speaking community, Hispanic and Latino, and also hear from their community. We have heard we had some questions and some comments as they have seen what's happening all around here locally in Houston and the county, and also around the nation. But you know, the encounters of the police between Hispanic and Latinos and the police and the things that go on, they're also important because we also are in the community and we also deal with them. Everybody deals with the police at some point, So be it just saying hi whenever they're directing traffic, or whenever they get a ticket, or whenever they have to call it because somebody's breaking into their vehicle, things like that. So thank you so much for watching us. Have a great night.